Hello friends, welcome to TechnoGeek SFDC, and we are back with another coding scenario which is going to improve your coding skills as well as this is going to help you in your interviews preparation as well. So today's scenario is that we need to write a trigger, or we need to basically build a functionality so that whenever a case is closed, we need to create a task assigned to it and assign the task to the case owner, basically whoever is handling the case. Okay, so this is our straightforward scenario. Now, in this scenario, how we will first proceed ahead. So since this is something again which we need to do on the DML of a record, or basically whenever the record data is getting changed, that time we need to do it. So in these type of scenarios, we use the triggers, or we will use the Apex triggers. You can do it this with the triggered flows as well, but in this video we will talk more on the coding side, so that's where we will take the Apex triggers. Okay, now after we got that, okay, we will be using the triggers on case. Okay, now which event we need to consider? So as you can see from the statement that it is asking whenever the stage is getting changed to close. This means whenever the stage value is getting changed. Okay, so that will be your after scenario. The reason is, first thing, we are checking that the stage is closed. Another thing is we have to create a record, or we have to basically create a task record which is on another object. It is not on the case. Okay, so whatever the manipulations or whatever the new data insertions we have to do on a new object, that is case. That's where we will be using after context. So combining the two together, one is we are using after because we have to create a record on task, and we will also be using the update context because we are checking that the stage is getting changed from some other value to closed. Okay, so considering these two, we will be using after update scenario in our Apex trigger on case. Now, let's see how we are going to write it. Okay, so we will be having so we can just go to triggers and we can write a trigger, that is case trigger on. So by default, you get before insert context. I will change it to after update. Okay, now next thing is we will just put a condition that if is update. Okay, and then again we will just write another context if, sorry, it will be trigger dot is update and trigger dot is after. Okay, we basically create these two blocks so that whatever the logics we write on the triggers, we basically try to segregate them so that we will clearly know that which code is getting executed on which event. Usually, as part of best practices, we create a case handler, and then we call those handlers from the triggers. But in this scenario, I'll just take a straightforward because I'll be explaining the logic how you're going to do it. From the separation of concern point of view, you can just create an handler class of the trigger, that is case trigger handler, and the same logic you can put in the handler and just call the method of handler from trigger. Okay, so this is as part of best practice. Here I'll be explaining how you can just write the logic. Okay, so first thing what we need to do here is, as per our code, we need to first we will start iterating over the case records, okay, which got updated. Now next thing is we need to check that if the case status or case stage has been changed. Okay, so I'll just open the case fields as well. Now as you can see, I have a field called status. Okay, so I'll be using this field, and if you can see here, we have a value called closed. Okay, so first what we will check here is we will first check if the case dot status equals closed. Okay, and we need to also check one more thing, that the case status has been updated. This means the older value and the new value, they both are different. So in this case, how we will check? We will use is not equal to, we will use here trigger dot old map. Okay, so basically old map, what it do is trigger dot old map will store the previous version of your data before you made the update, and the new map will contains the new version of the data. Okay, so I will use here cs.id, and it is basically a map of record id and the record data. So if I use cs.id, it will get me the earlier version of the case record. Okay, and then again I can just put status. So this statement will make sure that the new version, that is cs.status, is not equal to the earlier version of the record. So basically the status field value has been changed from earlier version or the older version in new version. Okay, so this is our if condition we will put. Now, if both of them are satisfied, then what we need to do? Okay, so we first need to create a task. Okay, so I can write create. Now, I'll just keep separate lines so that it will be easier for you to understand. Now, we have something called ta.subject equals case is closed, case is closed, and I'll just give cases closed. You can also give the case number as well here if you want. So, or let me just put it like cs dot case number. Okay, this is the subject. Now, in description, I can just write that case is successfully closed. I'll just write please follow up for feedback. Okay, and then now here we have given subject and description. Next is we need to specify what id and who id of the task. So what id is basically the record id, or basically they are the data id, and who id is more of a person's id. So here in what id we use the record ids of, let's say, case or any other custom object or accounts and all. In who ID, we use those records which denotes to a user or which denotes to a person. It can be a user, it can be a contact, something like that. Okay. So in our case, we will use what ID equals case ID, and ta dot who ID will become cs dot owner ID. Okay. Till here, I think it should be clear. Now, next is we need to insert a task. Okay. So usually, what mistakes people do is they just write the insert statement here, but this is not a good practice because, as you know, Salesforce are having its own governor limits. Governor limits means for each transaction, Salesforce provide a certain limits, only that much limit data you can process. Okay. So in order to process more data, we basically do a bulkification. Bulkification means we basically combines all the similar data together, and at a once we do DML operations on that. So to do bulkification, what we will do here, we will just write list of task. Okay, I'll just give ta list equals new list of task. Okay, and then I will add here dot add ta. Okay, now after for loop, I will check if ta list dot size is greater than 0. Okay, this means that if this list is having any task in it, then only I should perform the DML operations, else I should not do. Okay, and then I'll just write insert ta list. Okay, so this is our whole and sole logic, which is going to be that we are first checking if the case status is closed and case status has been changed to become closed. Okay. And then what we are doing is we are creating a task, adding it to a list, and then inserting the list as part of bulkification. I'll just write it as part of bulkification. Okay. Now let's try to save this. Okay. So it is telling trigger at This is not equal to trigger dot old map. Okay, sorry, it should be get because the map, right? So we'll be using trigger dot old map dot get. Okay, so now our trigger has been successfully saved. Now let's try to see how this will behave in actual scenario. So I'll just see if I have a case here. So I'll just go to cases. I'll see if I have any open case. Should be having. Okay, I have few open case. Now I'll just come here. So this is my case. Layout you can ignore. I have been doing a lot of different things, so layout has been messed up. Okay, so as you can see in this, I do not have any task or anything created here. Okay, now okay. So I'll just do one thing. I'll change the status to closed. Okay, I need to I need to have a close button here. Okay, so there is some issue with the close case button on the lightning layout. So I just came here on the classic and I can just click on close case. Okay, so as soon as I'm clicking on close case, it will ask the status to change to close. Uh, I'll just give the case reason as normal performance and then I can just click on save. Okay, so there will be one correction here. Basically, who ID only refers to the people thing, as I was telling. So it will only take lead and contact. It will not take the user as well here. So we can just comment out the who ID. If we have any lead or contact to whom it should be assigned, then we can use the who ID. Okay, so I'll just comment out the who ID part because I don't have any lead or contact here. Now let's try to save it again. So now this got saved, okay, and it should be having a, yeah. So you can see that there is a task has been created, okay, that is case is closed, and this is the task number, and then the priority due date also, if you want, you can set the due date. It is related to what, and then you have the subject and everything. Comment also has been added, that is the description which we added. Similarly, if you want, you can add a due date as well for these tasks. So due date is basically a date field, so you can just add any date here, which will be basically your due date for the task. Okay, so this is how we can just write this logic to create a task on closure of the account, closure of the cases. Okay, so with this, we will wrap up today's video. I hope you liked it, and I'm pretty sure that you will be facing this scenario in any of your interviews, and you can also use this for your practice purposes. Okay. And as I mentioned, this is just to show the logic. If you want to implement actually in your project and all, then the main recommendation is to use a handler classes and put all this logic in a handler class and then just call the handler class method from the Apex triggers. Okay. So with this, thanks for your time, and please do like, share and subscribe to the channel. It gives us the motivation to bring up more and more videos. So with this, thanks for your time. Bye bye.